A Child's History of the World. Chapter 1. How Things Started. Once upon a time, there was a boy, just like me. He had to stay in bed in the morning until 7 o'clock, until his father and mother were ready to get up. So did I. As he was always awake long before this time, he used to lie there and think about all sorts of curious things. So did I. One thing he used to wonder was this: what would the world be like if there were no fathers and mothers, no uncles and aunts, no cousins or other children to play with, no people at all except himself in the whole world? Perhaps you have wondered the same thing. So did I. At last, he used to get so lonely just from thinking how dreadful such a world would be that he could stand it no longer and would run to his mother's room and jump into bed by her side just to get this terrible thought out of his mind. So did I, for I was the boy. Well, there was a time long, long, long ago when there were no men or women or children, no people of any kind in the whole world. Of course, there were no houses, for there was no one to build them or to live in them. No towns or cities, nothing that people make. There were just wild animals, bears and wolves, birds and butterflies, frogs and snakes, turtles and fish. Can you think of such a world as that? Then, long, long, long before that, there was a time when there were no people and no animals of any sort in the whole world. There were just growing plants, trees and bushes, grass and flowers. Can you think of such a world as that? Then, long, 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 long before that, there was a time when there were no people, no animals, no plants in the whole world. There was just bare rock and water everywhere. Can you think of such a world as that? Then, long, 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 long. You might keep on saying, long, 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 all day, and tomorrow, and all next week, and next month, and next year. And it would not be long enough. Before this, there was a time when there was no world at all. There were only the stars, nothing else. Now, real stars are not things with points like those in the corner of a flag or the gold ones you put on a Christmas tree. The real stars in the sky have no points. They are huge, burning coals of fire. Each star, however, is so huge that there is nothing in the world now anywhere nearly as big. One little bit, one little scrap of a star is bigger than our whole world. One of these stars is our sun. Yes, our sun. The other stars would look the same as the sun if we could get as close to them. But at that time, so long, long ago, our sun was not just a big, round, white, hot ball, as we see it in the sky today. It was then more like the fireworks you may have seen on the 4th of July. It was whirling and sputtering and throwing off sparks. One of these sparks, which the sun threw far off, got cool just as a spark from the crackling log in the fireplace gets cool. And this cooled-off spark was, what do you suppose? See if you can guess. It was our world. Yes, the world on which we now live. At first, however, our world, our Earth, was nothing but a ball of rock. This ball of rock was wrapped around with steam, like a heavy fog. Then the steam turned to rain, and it rained on the world. And it rained, and it rained, and it rained, until it had filled up the hollows and made enormously big puddles. These puddles were the oceans. The dry places were bare rock. Then, after this, came the first living things, tiny plants that you could only have seen under a microscope. At first, they grew only in the water, then along the water's edge, then out on the rock. Then dirt, or soil as people call it, formed all over the rock, and made the rock into land, and the plants grew larger and spread farther over the land. Then, after this, came the first tiny animals in the water. They were wee mites, like drops of jelly. Then, after this, came things like insects, some that lived in the water, some on the water, some on the land, and some in the air. Then, after this, came fish that live only in the water. Then, after this, came frogs that live in the water and on the land too. Then, after this, came snakes and huge lizards, bigger than alligators, more like dragons. They grew so big that at last they could not move and died because they could not get enough food to eat. Then, after this, came birds that lay eggs, and those animals like foxes, elephants, and cows, that nurse their babies when they are born. Then, after this, came monkeys. Then, last of all, came, what do you suppose? Yes, people, men, women, and children. Here are the steps. See if you can take them. Star to sun, sun to spark, spark to world, world to steam, steam to rain, rain, oceans, oceans, plants, plants, mites, mites, insects, insects, fish, fish, frogs, frogs, snakes, snakes, birds, birds, animals, animals, monkeys, monkeys, people. And here we are. What do you suppose will be next?